The next thing what you have to do is to put the both side seam of the dress together. So put them together like this and take your pin along. Once you have done pinning the both side seam together, take it to your sewing machine, stitch the both side seam together, and you also do the same thing on the back. Once you have done stitching, take it to your ironing board, press it very nice. I have stitched the both side seam together. This is how it is. Next thing what you have to do, take your sleeve, put them together like this. Take your pin along. Then you take your cuff, put them together like this. This is how it is. Just put them together like this. And pin it in place. Once you have done pinning the sleeve and the cuff together, the next thing what you have to do, take it to your sewing machine, stitch the sleeve side, and you also take your cuff, stitch the both side together. Once you have done stitching, turn it inside out, take it to your ironing board and press it very nice. I have stitched the sleeve and the cuff together. So the next thing to do is to place your sleeve inside your top dress. So turn it. Make sure you know the front of the sleeve, while the back I didn't snip. I just snip the front of the sleeve so that I know where to place it. So place it on your armhole. Put it inside like this. So the sleeve head, place it in between the seam line of the shoulder and pin it in place. And then you take the side of the sleeve. This will be the side. Place it at the side seam of the dress. Pin it in place also. So now you can pin your sleeve all around. I have pinned the sleeve around the armhole. This is how it is. The next thing what you have to do, just take it to your sewing machine and stitch around the both armhole. Right now I'm about to stitch the sleeve on the armhole. Don't forget your seam allowance is 1 centimeter. I have stitched the sleeve together. This is how it looks. And I also take it to my overlocker. I just overlock the raw edges. If you don't have overlocker, use zigzag to overlock the raw edges. So the next thing what you have to do, you put the sleeve together like this. Take your scissors, snip a little bit at the mid part of the sleeve. And you also take your cuff together, put it together, and you also snip the mid part. So what you have to do, place your mid part of the cuff, put it also at the side of the sleeve, put them together like this, just pin it in place. So you just continue pinning like that. So once you have done pinning, take it to your sewing machine, stitch it all around, then turn it inside out and give it a top stitch. But if I'm going to stitch the cuff on the sleeve, what I'm going to do, this is optional, you don't have to do it. I will first place my zigzag lace all around, so I will just pin it all around. So when I'm placing the zigzag lace, I make sure I leave a little bit gap from the sleeve. So I don't want to put it at the top like this, so I will make sure I leave a little bit gap like that, and I will just pin it all around. Once I've done pinning the zigzag design on the sleeve, then I will place my cuff. I will place my cuff and then pin it all over again and stitch all over again. So when I'm going to stitch, I will first stitch the zigzag lace around the sleeve before I will place my cuff and then stitch it all over again. So come with me and let's stitch that together. I have pinned the cuff on the sleeve. I'm top stitching right now, and don't forget to set your sewing machine to 2.5 when you're top stitching again. And also your seam allowance is 1 centimeter. I just take it to my ironing board and press it very well. And inside, I make sure that the seam where I stitch, you can see that I also overlock the raw edges. I press it towards the main sleeve, not towards the cuff. So do the same thing. So the next thing what you have to do, just give it a top stitch all around. Set your sewing machine to 3 or 3.5. Stitch the cuff on the sleeve, and I also top stitch. This is how it look. And I also go ahead and stitch my button. You just place it, decide if you want a bigger button or a smaller button, depends on you. So just put your button and use hand stitch to attach the button on the tab. Next thing what you have to do is to gather your skirt. Set your sewing machine to the longest stitch and gather your skirt. You can either pleat your skirt or gather your skirt. Whichever way, it's very good. Before you gather your skirt, make sure you put the both sides seam together. Stitch it first before you will gather your skirt. So what I'm about to do here, I will just overlock the raw edges and then top stitch again before I will set my sewing machine to the longer stitch, and then I will gather the skirt. So I am top stitching again. Even if I overlock the raw edges, I like to top stitch all over again. See, I want you to know that I'm from a beautiful country where we call Niger. Everything we want, we got. South of Niger, now there we get the dough. If you do, I do. Can you roll? Can you receive? Oh, yeah, do. I have stitched the gather stitch thread on the skirt. Before you gather your skirt, what you have to do, take your top dress, put them together like this. Once you've done that, then take your scissors, snip the mid part, and you also take your garter skirt, do the same thing, put them together, also snip the mid part. So when you're going to gather your skirt, you put it this way. This is the most perfect way to gather your skirt. So put them together like this. Make sure the both mid parts are together. Take your pin, just pin that in place. And then you come to the end of the skirt, and you also take the end of the top dress, then put them together like this again. Take your pin, pin it in place. So what you have to do, you have to gather this side first, then pin the other side, and you also gather the skirt. So you just take the thread like this, and keep pulling the skirt. You gather one side and then you gather the other side. So what you have to do right now, once you've gathered it like this, take your pin, pin it all in place, and you also do the same thing on the second side. Finish pinning the skirt together, pin it on the top dress and also with the lining. Just take it to your sewing machine and give it a straight stitch all around. Your seam allowance is 1 centimeter. I have stitched the garter skirt on the top dress. This is how it looks. And I just take it to my overlocker, overlock all the raw edges, also with the center back. The next thing what you have to do is to measure where you want your zip to end. So from the very top of the neckline, you put your measuring tape like this, and then measure. I will measure 14.5 inches because my daughter is 10 years old. 14.5 inches, and I will place a pin right there. And I will do the same thing on this side. Now place a pin on 40.5 inches, 14.5 inches. So what you're going to do right now, turn it inside out. So you put them together like this and pin it in place. So what you're going to do, from where the 14.5 inches end, just pin it all the way to the end. Once you have done pinning, take it to your sewing machine, stitch from here all the way to the end. And you also do the same thing with the lining. I have stitched it in place. This is how it is. I just take it to my ironing board, press the seam apart. The next thing what you have to do is to stitch your zip. Before you stitch your zip, open your zip like this, and then turn it this way and place it at the very top of the neckline. Place it like this and take your pin, pin along. Once you have done pinning, you can take it to your sewing machine and stitch along. But the most easiest way to stitch invisible zip, first thread your needle like this, and then use hand stitch to stitch along, and then remove all the pins and take it to your sewing machine and stitch it all over again. I have stitched the zip in place. This is how it finally look. So when you open it, this is how it look. So the next thing to do, turn your dress inside out. So if you want to close the neckline, if you want to close this neckline perfectly, what you have to do, place it like this and turn your zip, put it on top of the lining like this and pin it in place. So what you're going to do, just continue from the stitch line, just stitch across like this, and you do the same thing on the side. Zip, put it on top of it. You can see, make sure there is a gap in between. Place it on top of it like this, and then take your pin, pin it in place. So what you're going to do, take it to your sewing machine and just stitch across. Just a straight stitch. Once you're done it with that, turn it inside out. You can see your stitch line before. Place your presser forward and your needle. Just stitch across. Back stitch at the beginning, back stitch at the end. I have top stitch. I'll just take my scissors to cut a little bit out, and I'll do the same thing on the side. The next thing what you have to do, turn it inside out. You see how flat that is? It's very nice and cute. So the next thing what you have to do, hand stitch to cover the zipper raw edges. Put them together, just spin along and just use hand stitch. Hand stitch is very easy, it's not so difficult to make. So I will use hand stitch to cover it like this all the way around. Once you have done with that, then you can hem your dress. Take your dress to your sewing machine. If you have overlocker, just overlock the raw edges, fold inside 1 centimeter and then stitch along. But if you don't have overlocker, just fold it inside like this and then fold it again and give it a top stitch all around. So when I'm going to hem the lining, I'm also going to stitch zigzag design to hem the lining. So what I'm going to do, as you can see, I've already overlocked the raw edges of the lining. I will place it like this, a little bit far away from the raw edges where I overlocked. Stitch around and then turn it again. Then a little bit of the zigzag design will be showing like this, just the same way I stitched the sleeve. So that will be the final look of the dress. This is how it will finally look. If you have not subscribed, please don't forget to subscribe. If you like my tutorial, thumbs up. Thank you for watching my video. Hope you enjoyed it and have a blessed day. Bye.